Okay, here's one. It reminded me of the fact that so many of you talked about sneaking in on the panel or feeling inadequate this way or the other, and this question says, what do you think Wellesley can do to alleviate feelings among so many Wellesley College women that they are inadequate compared to other Wellesley women, or two, that they should be able to do it all, coming back to that again. So what could be done to help Wellesley women not feel that they're they're inadequate somehow?
So one of the things I talk about, I come to campus periodically because I live nearby. I've hosted some international students over the last 10 years. And so I meet with them or meet with some of their classmates, and I try to reinforce with them what reality is like post-Wellesley, which is that no one has ever asked me for my GPA. I have a pretty good GPA, but no one has ever asked me for my GPA. It has never gotten me a job. It didn't win my husband over. It didn't win me new friends and influence others. It really has not made that great a difference. And so I really try to get them to focus on doing the work for its own reward, really hoping that early on they can start seeing that you really need to find your own satisfaction and your own success and value that not based on the grade that you get or the grade that you get compared to your roommate's grade. For me, working with these young women, I also want them to understand that in the real world there is failure, that when you're at a place like this, everyone's getting good grades, everyone's succeeding, everyone's getting interesting internships for the most part. And so it creates this real aura of success, and that is really, what is important. For me, in my life, I guess I didn't talk about my personal life, so I am married and have been for 19 years now, but unfortunately was not able to have children. I was of the generation graduating in 1980 that could wait. We had birth control, we lived with our partners, we had all kinds of new opportunities. We wanted to develop our careers before we settled down and had children. I waited too long, and the first real failure that I faced in life was infertility. And I ended up, when it comes to something like infertility, you either win or you lose, other than adoption, having your own child is not an option. And it really was the first time, and I was in my early 40s, that I really had to face failure and realize that no matter how hard I worked and no matter how many rules I followed and no matter, even if I did what the doctor said, I wasn't going to get what I wanted. And I think that is often an experience of people like us that are so fortunate. We don't experience that kind of failure in life, and it does not breed the kind of resiliency you need to face those kind of challenges, which could be infertility, it could be a divorce, it could be a death of someone you love. So I really try to talk to them about the realities of learning how to fail and accepting that. And the more you can do that early on, maybe the more successful you'll be when those times hit.
So you're part of the being invited, what I was talking about before, that people come and talk to the students about their personal lives and how significant that is. Can I just ask you, what kind of reactions you've gotten from the students listening to you talk about some of these things?
I think that they really appreciate it because, I become more human to them, and it's often the kind of conversations even their mothers don't have with them.
Yes.
And, they don't have necessarily that kind of personal relationship. And so it really is I find that they seem inspired by it. And also, I think as alums, we can be very intimidating to these younger women. They think, that we know it all and we have it all and we've had these really, successful lives. And so to show that we've hit bumps along the way or had to make difficult choices, I think is very liberating for them, or
yes,
that's what I hope.
Yes, well, that's what it sounded like when I spoke to this graduating senior, that it was extremely meaningful. And I really want to give kudos again to the career, it's the Center for Work and Service, and Folly Patterson spoke with us a bit about the kind of work that they're doing now.
Just on that note, I love the one about, really thinking twice before going to law or medical school. Yes. So a lot of my classmates took that path. And law school and the career of a typical lawyer is not what most people envision or anticipate or love. Right. And so many of my classmates went down that road and found themselves in a firm and, you know, wanted to kill themselves and, you know, subsequently changed jobs or found other ways out. But for someone to really talk about what it's like to work in a law firm, I think that's fabulous.
Right. The college is stepping up. Ellen, I think you wanted to add something here.
I just wanted to go back to the idea of Wellesley not always making its students feel that they're very capable. When I guess my second week of Wellesley, I took a French placement test, and I wanted to get into French 2. And I got a note saying I had gotten into French literature, and I absolutely panicked. I mean, I was not in a very good state of mind anyway, beginning college. And I thought, I can't possibly do anything like that. So I went to the class, and I went up to the professor, and I told her what I just told you. And she said to me, stay here for 2 weeks. And I promise you that if you want to go back to French 2 at the end of 2 weeks, you can go. Well, you know the end of it, of course, it was my best grade. But this was the only professor who ever took an interest in me. And I got a degree in French literature. Because that meant, so I went through the program and through her courses, and she always treated me a little bit specially, maybe because of that beginning. But it makes such a difference if somebody's interested in you.
Absolutely. I think we've got time. I'm going to try for about 2 more questions. Here's a different one. Across the generations that you represent, do you think your male partners or your male friends hold different attitudes towards women? Has there been, or what kind of a shift has there been in male expectations over time? Just a casual question. Give us 2 sound bites on that one, please.
I think more acknowledgement of shared roles, certainly. Yeah, the first couple questions you asked about competition too, you know, and I think about that, you know, part of me thinks, you know, I always want to see women as supporting them and them supporting me and trying to affirm those bonds, and I feel like I came out of that from Wellesley, but at the same time there's the reality that you're competing, so it's like, who are you competing against? If you compete against men, that seems expected. If you compete against women, it seems like you're tearing each other down, and that's it. So I always feel like there's that, just trying to figure out the shift of how you're going to navigate and who's your, I don't know, I guess you run your best race. You know, maybe it's really you're competing against it for your own personal best.
Of course, the whole business of competition is sorely in question these days, too, as we talk about redefining success. But do you all feel that there has been a significant shift in male attitudes?
I have one comment. I married someone younger, and he's probably more of Donna's generation. And I remember on our first date, I thought, oh, maybe he's the one, because we were talking about someone I knew who was getting married, and her husband wanted her to change her name, and he said, why would a woman ever change their name?
That's a
and
change.
I realized that was a significant change from the men of my generation, and this is now almost 20 years ago. And then the second thing I want to say, is that I'm actually not very traditional in the home. I don't cook, I never have, and my husband and I, it's just the 2 of us, pretty much divvy up the chores, I'd say pretty evenly. But the one that I've taken on, because you can get it done and it gives me that feeling of success, is the laundry. And so in my house, I'm called the laundry elf, and my husband said that if I got this in during the hour-and-a-half panel, he would give $100 to the Wellesley College fund. So there you go. Thank you.
Love it. I love it. Okay. This is the question that I'm going to give as the final one. It seems that the women's movement is practically dead. Should it be revived, and towards what goals? Just another really casual question.
Pass the Equal Rights Constitutional Amendment.
Maybe we should just go straight down. Let's go straight down.
No, it's not dead, but I do believe it needs some rejuvenation. you know, as I said, for having taken it for granted, there's still things that we're running up against all the time. Daycare, probably the biggest one, at least for, you know, parents, and that's a big thing. And in terms of, you know, changing attitudes, that's a big one.
Great. Donna, what do you think?
I think it's dead. No, I think it's totally part of the dialogue. You know, I think it's just become part of the norm that, you know, people talk about gender openly, or, you know, sex roles. And I think it's more the acknowledgement that women and men are different, that, you know, we're not the same. There's a lot of things that are the same, but that the acknowledgement of differences and how that plays out, different goals, different ways of competing or collaborating.
Any specific goals that you think the women's movement should aim towards
that
or
it
address?
should have.
What do you think? Now.
Say that again?
What specific goals?
You don't have to answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to blank. I don't know.
Fine,
That's not
okay.
very.
That's okay. I'm just
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think I would follow.
We'll go back to you.
You know, Maura, say something. I
go
would
back
say,
to
echo what Donna said, vive la différence. And, you know, I think particularly my generation, graduating in 1980, you know, we really were trying to be men in many ways. You know, we were those women who wore pantsuits and the little ties that looked like men's ties. That was us. And I'm so glad that we've thrown that aside. And so the more we can celebrate the differences and what we each bring to the workplace or to the home, I think the better off we'll be. And then I think if we could get healthcare reform in this country, we have to get daycare reform.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, Margaret.
After Bush was elected again, there was a group that formed in Kansas called True Blue Women, which is kind of what I see as the future of the women's movement, perhaps. Much more localized, much more of a ground-up kind of movement, which carved out 4 areas of concern in Kansas and began to follow the model, kind of the League of Women Voters, of getting educated, getting good educational materials out, and walking the hallways of Topeka at the Capitol to push for change. And in a few areas we were successful, and I think it raised the kind of camaraderie and sophistication about political change, at the same time encouraging those grassroots kind of common good feelings that I think women are uniquely suited to have.
Yes, yes. I'm going to jump before we go to you and just tell you what Carmel, our 2010 senior, told me is going on at campus now. What are the main causes that the students are addressing? Equal pay, right? Equal rights for gay, lesbian, trans individuals. Anti-violence against women. I was very struck by the fact that at this stage in their lives on campus, they're much less focused on the importance of support for childcare or family-friendly work policies, which I think all of us are saying are really feel very strongly about. Ellen, go for it.
Well, they're not there yet. You know, in a few years, they'll worry about daycare. I don't think the women's movement is dead. I think we're electing more women, both in the states and to the Congress. I think more women are working in jobs that used to be only really designated for men. What I think maybe we've lost is the fervor and the concern to keep it going and to secure the goals. And I think that it'll really take a lot of women to get exercised so that the gains that we've made can stay gains.
Absolutely.